Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start with the detail work on the car and on the exterior and on the underside and so on, and see how we do with getting it cleaned up. Follow along and I'll show you how I approach a really dirty stored car like this to try and get it back into shape. I know there are a lot of products out there that promise some miracle finish restoration in 20 minutes with one spray on product and so on, but frankly most of those products don't work. If they do clean up the car, they do it temporarily, and then you end up with something that's permanently attached to the finish that goes yellow, doesn't look good at all. There's really no shortcuts to cleaning a car like this up. So we're going to start with a water wash. The car is really messy underneath, so I'm going to try and get the pressure washer under there and clean up as much of the greasy buildup and cobwebs and stuff as I can with the pressure washer. And then as far as the rest of the finish is concerned, we're going to do a proper hand water wash with a proper car wash product. All right, we're all set up to start washing the car. Now, ramps like this are a real iffy proposition. So if you're going to try this with ramps, make sure you use ramps that won't slide. These are the kind that are made out of recycled tires, or you have them braced against something like a parking block, and really be sure that you're not going to tear up your front valence. I got it up here, we still got to get it off, so that's its own separate problem. Anyway, let's go ahead and see about washing this car. I'm going to try to give you a feel for how nasty the car really is. We're going to focus in on some stuff that is dirty, and we'll see how we end up with it. You can see here, if you look here, there's a shadow and marks from where license plate was once on the car. You can see here there's a lot of stuff, contamination on the surface. It's really dirty, really dirty under here. Everything is covered in dust and filthy. Marks like this are maybe they're just on the surface. There's also quite a bit of surface marking here, from partly from the car being dirty and partly from me having been working on it. I think most of this is on the surface. This is stuff that we're going to work on trying to get out today. See quite a bit of stuff along there. There's a mark like that, which is probably a door dim or paint chip. I put a disposable plastic cover on the ground to catch grease for proper disposal rather than contaminating the yard. Then I used a gas pressure washer to clean as much grease and cobwebs and other contamination off the underside of the car as possible. I then switched to a hose with a garden sprayer to try and get as much of the underhood contamination off with low pressure to reduce the chances of damaging something under hood. Finally, I got the car off the ramps. So that's the pressure wash on the underside and a little water on the engine wash complete on the car. It's usually a really bad idea to be putting water on your engine, but with a car like this where you're starting from square one, it's absolutely filthy. You have little choice, and the whole thing is going to get a lot of attention going forward. So if we got some water in a place where we shouldn't have, we're pretty likely to get it back out again. The next step is an exterior hand wash with a car wash soap. I use a microfiber wash mitt for this, but you can also use a clean microfiber towel. It's important to use a washcloth that's clean and won't scratch the paint. Usually you start by washing the upper surfaces and working down, but some areas on a car like this need more attention than others, so that's not a hard and fast rule. However you do it, you should continually rinse the car and avoid letting any part of it dry out in the sun during the wash. The final step is a full rinse, then you can proceed to dry the car. So here's a little rule about washing cars that I'm going to tell you. When you get a car wet, don't let it dry off on its own. Always dry it yourself. I use a fresh microfiber, totally clean microfiber. Rinse it after you've soaped it or after you've washed it, and then get it in the shade, like back here in the shop, and then dry it. Now when you use a microfiber like this, tear the label off. The label can scratch. Then you're going to start at the top, fold the microfiber up like this. Then you're going to start at the top and just start drying it off. Now, you don't have to get the car perfectly dry. What you're trying to do here is get it in a state where it's not going to spot. Now, washing it like this gives you a first chance to get up close to the car and try and see what kind of state it really is in. How much stuff is on the paint, how much stuff is in the paint, where the problems are, if there are parts that are broken. That might have been a garage find, or depending on what part of the country you're in, garage find. But based on the amount of stuff I washed out of that rear hatch molding, the glass molding, it clearly spent some of its time outside. And I think you could tell that already because of the state of a lot of the plastic stuff, which is sun damaged. Alberta's not like Arizona for sun damage, but if you leave a car outside continuously, it will get sun damage. Now, if you end up with your microfiber contaminated, get another one. When you get to work on something like this, honestly, you have no idea what you're going to find. You could really, really hate it when you get into it. But actually, despite some blemishes, which you knew it was going to have some, this car is coming up fairly good with just a proper wash. Remember, it was unbelievably dirty. So a wash is really just a opener. There's a lot left to do. The rest of it, though, could be done inside. So for instance, if it snowed tonight, we're ahead of the game. I used so much water washing out this hatch window trim. Probably tripled my shop water bill for the year. So it's only had a water wash. Actually, I think it has come up quite a lot. So we got it dried up. I already think the car looks a lot better, but it's time to stop for lunch, and we'll come back, and if there's still time left today, I got a Mustang coming in for a little work, but if there's still time left today, we'll try and do a little clay bar and see how that works. Look at stuff like this. So for whatever reason, there's like a little hole in there. This has come up quite a bit. See thumb fingerprints, greasy marks. See some marks on there. Marks on there. There's some surface contamination. Some greasy marks. So the paint still has a little bit of a rough feel to it, in places especially. It's not that bad on the hood. Up here feels a little rough for sure. Back here on the spoiler feels rough. The next step in trying to clean the car up is to clay bar it. Now, if you're not familiar with clay bar, this is a McGuire's clay bar kit. Whoops, this is a Mother's clay bar kit. This one's about finished off. All clay bar is a bar of sticky clay. It'll come packaged in a nice little package, but as you use it, you You want to put it in a Ziploc and keep it with the box or whatever. This stuff is like an eraser for your paint. It's super gentle on the paint, but it's also really good at getting surface contaminants off the paint. And when you're done clay barring it, the paint will end up feeling smooth. Now I'm going to clay bar the whole car, but let me try and give you a feel for how you do this. You're going to spray the detail spray on. This is Mother's Instant Detailer. You can use the Meguiar's Ultimate Quick. And then you'll take the clay bar and you'll just gently run it over the spot that you want to clean up. Now remember, there was a terrible surface contaminant on there and it's picked it up just about right away. You need the clay bar. And you just keep rubbing it over that spot. And that is going to pick all of the contamination up. In fact, you see how dirty that is? How dirty that's coming up? That's because this paint is actually quite dirty. So we're going to do this whole section. When you have a fresh kit, there'll be a microfiber in there. If you're kind of using up the end of an old kit, you may have to get your own fresh, clean microfiber. I don't know if we're going to get that out or not, but it looks really terrible, right? You can see the paint around it come up in relation. You want to keep turning this and kneading it. There isn't really a shortcut to this. You just have to keep at it. But the clay is very gentle on the finish. But if something is on the finish, like this is, it does a shockingly good job at getting it off. Okay, so we've made that probably 95% better. There are some imperfections in the paint where whatever dragged over there actually damaged the paint, but the majority of that was on the surface. And if I was to stand back 5 feet, I might not even see that, especially once we put a little wax on it. Now I'm going to do this whole car because the paint is really dirty. This is going to truly get the surface of the paint clean. Get all that contamination off of it, whatever it is, and get you down to what's really there. Now, if you have the misfortune of dropping your clay bar on the floor, throw it away. But the stuff that you're going to pick up in it is going to knead up into the bar. And don't be shy with the detail spray, because it's there to lubricate everything so that you don't start scratching it up. I think one of the things you can actually see is how well the clay bar works. You can see along here, this has actually been clay barred because I had a little overlap when I was cleaning things up for this stripe. Below that is a scungy mess. You see that? So that clay bar gets all of this nasty stuff off and gets the paint basically clean. So you've got something to work with. I have clay barred the entire car. It's a long, tedious process, but it's finally done, and the paint on the car is now pretty clean. That doesn't mean it's nice, but it's pretty clean. So really, it's oxidized and lifeless. I've had quite a lot of up close and personal time with the paint, and I'm pretty sure that there's enough paint here to handle a little bit of compound polishing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use a real gentle compound, this Meguiar's Ultimate, and I'm going to use it with a dual action orbital. This is the safest way to try and compound a car, and I'm going to take it slow. I'm going to keep a close eye on what's happening, and we'll see if we can't get the paint to come up a little bit. Then once we've done as much compounding as we're going to, we'll go ahead and wax the car with the Meguiar's Ultimate Liquid Wax. So it's a good idea to have a light on the surface so you can see what you're looking at. Then I'm going to take this stuff, give it a little shake, and I'm going to lay a crosswise pattern, I think, like that, on the buffer. What I'm going to try to do is compound this half of the hood, and then we'll look at the other half and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to put that down there. Yeah, that's good. Put that right on the paint. To go along with the compound, I got a clean microfiber to wipe it off with. Okay, so we'll set this down. We're going to try to keep this cord off of the car if we can. And I have this device set on 3 out of 5. Okay. Let's give that a wipe. Okay, I think we've got that quite a bit better, but we're going to hit it again. The upper surfaces are the places that are going to be the worst. Now, it's important to go slow with this in case you're courting disaster. Now, some of that compound is kind of stuck on the surface. So I'm going to use a little quick detail with another clean rag, clean microfiber, and get it off. And I'm going to make sure there isn't a compound line on there. Wow. That actually looks great. I think it's really hard to show this. You got a real nice, clean white surface there. Then as we come over here, you can see how nasty looking this other surface is. You see all the imperfections on that surface? And we come back down to where we compounded it. The camera has a hard time even focusing on it because it's so much better. If you told me it was going to be a year before I put a coat of wax on this car, I'd have laughed. But it's been pretty close to that long because the car needed so much fixing and it was so unbelievably dirty. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put some wax on it. The product I like is this Meguiar's Ultimate Liquid Wax. Why do I like this stuff better? Because it dries clear. You can go really fast and be really careless with it. You're not going to end up with a white residue inside all of your gaps on your emblems and so on. So I know I did my 11 convertible one day. I timed it from start to finish. It was 21 minutes from first application to putting down the buffing cloth. This car isn't going to be very much different, I don't think. So let's go ahead and put some wax on, and then maybe we can make it to the cruise night in time. Shake it a little bit. It's been sitting around. I'm going to start with this sponge applicator. Now, I know some of you guys are going to think, oh, I'm going to use some miracle product or whatever. There's really no shortcuts in getting your car to look good. There really aren't. But if you use products like this, it does go a little bit faster, won't damage the car, and one thing I've always liked about these Meguiar's products is they never make you feel sick for using them, where some of these products are pretty terrible actually. So you just go ahead and put it on with the sponge. If you're doing it in a building like this, you can probably go as far as doing the entire car before you take any of it off. Or we have just compounded the car. You can really hear something squeak there, eh? You see a spot like that? If we were using a regular wax, suddenly I'd have a residue in there that I'll be sorry that I leaned over and worked fast, because I'm going to have just as much time afterwards Q-tipping that out. This stuff is not like that. Now, you might say, oh, Matthew, are you sponsored by Meguiar's? No, I'm not. They were nice enough to put my street rod in their World of Wheels booth a couple times here in Calgary. Who gets their race car in the detailing company's booth anyway? But I'm not sponsored by them. I use their products because they're good and they work. Mother's makes a good line of products. Chemical guys make some good products. But for wax and detail spray, I think it's hard to beat these guys. Now, maybe someone from 3M Meguiar's is listening. I'm not above being sponsored by you guys. Even this rear wing, which I thought looked like one of the most neglected parts of the car, has come up pretty good with just a pretty quickie compound plus the clay bar. After you finish applying the wax, go over it with the buffing cloth that's usually supplied with the kit, or any clean microfiber to bring up the shine. Then you're ready to show it. Well, I have to say, after wash, clay bar, compound, and wax, this car looks really good. It was a long way back for this car from the condition that it was in. But it goes to show that with some elbow grease and a few bucks worth of trim and a little bit of paint, you can bring a car like this back to looking really good. Now, I didn't do anything under the hood, so that still looks like kind of a mess. And I think, against my better nature, I'm maybe going to show the car tonight with the hood closed, because it looks great outside and it doesn't look that great under the hood. But it's just another day's work under the hood to get that starting to look good as well. So I better quit talking to you guys and get saddled up and go to the cruise night, or I'll be parked in the weeds. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that you won't miss out on future videos.